As nurses, we are accustomed to having job security based on the fact that people everywhere get sick or injured and need our services. But when you're no longer working bedside, doing hands-on patient care, how secure is your job? In today's episode, we're going to look at one popular place nurses move to when working beyond the bedside, the insurance company, and discuss how secure these jobs are, steps you can take to increase your job security, and ways to get other job offers, just in case. Welcome to the Stay at Home Nurse Podcast. I'm your host, Deanna Cooper Gillingham. For over 25 years, I've strived to use my nurse credentials to find work that fit my lifestyle, whether it was raising my 4 children and 3 fur babies, traveling the world, or moving to Mexico and living on the Caribbean Sea. Sometimes I succeeded, and sometimes I failed, but I always learned from the experience. Now, I want to help you by sharing what worked and what didn't work. There are so many opportunities out there for nurses today. The Stay at Home Nurse Podcast will inspire and equip you to have a nursing career that is meaningful and supports your lifestyle. Now let's get started. I'm often asked, just how secure are those work-from-home insurance jobs? People will mention that someone that they know worked for X company and got laid off. Or there may be talk in the news about massive layoffs at an insurance company. And yes, this does happen. But by understanding how these companies operate, you can greatly decrease the chance of being let go. And if you are let go, there are things you can do to make getting another job, possibly even a better job, easier. But first, you have to get the job. Insurance companies hire based on the number of contracts they have. If they feel they will be getting some new contracts and need more nurses for case management or utilization management or other positions, they will post for these positions. If they get the contract, they will hire. If they don't get the contract, they will halt the hiring process in its place. Often I see people saying that they applied for a job at an insurance company, they had an interview, things went really well, and then they were told that the whole hiring process was put on hold. Often this is the reason. The company was anticipating needing a lot more nurses because of a contract they were anticipating that they would get. And if they got the contract, they would need to have these nurses in place very quickly. But if the contract didn't come through, they no longer need nurses for these positions. Understanding this will also help you not to get discouraged. It's not about you. It's just that they don't need a nurse right now for that position. Many of the very large companies that hire work-from-home positions from all over the country have smaller departments or lines of businesses. So while one may be hiring, another may be laying off because it lost a contract. And while you would think that they would just move people around from one department or line of business to another, often that is not the case. And those laid off will have to reapply for the other positions. To understand this, you have to understand how very large corporations work. Often a corporation acquired another company, and therefore they're not truly integrated into that larger company yet. So even though the larger company or the smaller company may be laying off, they're not integrated enough to just move people from one area to another. Now, that being said, in my opinion, this is where being a really great employee to your manager comes in handy. She may be able to put in a good word with another manager who has an opening. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The first choice is to not get laid off in the first place. So what can we do once you have the job to keep it? Of course, you will do all the things you normally would do to be a really good employee. But again, working for an insurance company is based on the number of contracts the company has. It requires business sense to understand how job security comes into play. We talked in episode 13 about nurse intrapreneurship, nurse entrepreneurship, and freelance nursing. I'll link to this episode in the show notes. What we will discuss next falls into the realm of nurse intrapreneurship. You need to think like an owner. Yes, you heard me right. You need to take ownership and think like a company owner for the contract or contracts you are working. Your job in addition to the one that you were hired to do, such as utilization management, case management, etc., is to keep the contract, because no contract equals no work for you. So how do you do this? You keep the company that you have a contract with happy. Keeping them happy means understanding their why. Why do they offer insurance for their employees? Is it because they have to and they only want to offer the minimum they need to get by? Or is it because they want to take care of their employees, that they really value their employees and they want to take care of them to the best of their ability? I've worked with both types of contracts. I've worked with contracts where the company was actually using their own money, this is known as self-insured, to pay out the claims. And some of them didn't want to spend money, and they only wanted to cover what they had to cover, what was in the contract. But I've worked for other companies that really wanted to do as much as they could for their employees. And yes, there was a contract that they were held to, but they were willing to go above and beyond. They just didn't really understand what should and should not be in the contract, and when there were individual circumstances that fell outside of the contract, they wanted us to bring it to their attention so they could consider covering it as an extra contractual benefit. Knowing the company's why is not always easy. If you keep bringing extra contractual benefit offers to the company and they keep denying them, then you know that this is not something that they're willing to do and you're just being a PIA. So pretty much know that this is not something that they're willing to do and only do it if it's absolutely necessary. On the other hand, if every time you bring one to the company, they're saying, yes, of course we want to do that, then you know that you need to continue bringing anything to the company that you think that they would want to cover. Another thing that you need to understand is whose money is it? We talked about this a little bit earlier, but some insurance policies are self-funded, meaning that the company itself is funding the insurance and everything's coming out of its pocket. Other insurance policies are fully insured, which means it's the insurance company's money. The Optum, the Blue Cross Blue Shield, the Aetna, it's actually their money. Knowing whose money it is will help you make better decisions regarding how to keep that contract. And another thing, if you have a contact in the company that you have the contract with, this will make helping you to keep that contract so much easier, because then you know that your job is to make them look good. That person that you have contact with, that liaison, your job is to make them look good and to make their life easier. That way, when the contract is up for renewal, they are rooting for you and they are pushing for you. They don't want to lose you. They are going to recommend to their employer keeping the contract because you are in their corner and they don't want to lose you. So here's an example. I was working as a case manager for a large insurance company handling only transplant case management. We had another company that we worked with, and we handled the transplant for them. They carved out the transplant to us. So I had a nurse liaison that I worked with at various companies to which we handled their transplant benefit. My job was to make them look really good. We got along very well. They made me look good. I made them look good. I answered their phone calls right away. I didn't let it go to voicemail. If it did go to voicemail, I returned the voicemail quickly. I gave them what they needed in a timely manner. I made them look good. And in return, when it was time for those contracts to come up, they would request that their employers renew the contract because they would say how easy our company was to work with, how easy I was to work with. They let me know if I was ever looking for a job that they would love to steal me away from my company. And I let them know if they were ever interested in working for my company, I would put in a good word for them. Now, obviously, there's only so much you can do. You can only do your part. And many of these contracts have numerous case managers or utilization managers working them. So, in the worst case scenario, if you do end up losing your contract and therefore your job, here are some things to consider. By being an awesome employee that your boss loves to have working for them, they may be able to help you to move to another department within the company. They may have another manager friend that actually has an opening that you can get into. You may be able to get a job with one of the companies that you were in contract with. Reach out to them and let them know that you're looking for something new. I'd like to leave you with an inspirational true story. At one of the companies I worked for, they had a contract that was the coveted contract that everybody wanted to work for this contract. When they were in a position to hire a new nurse for this contract, they went to the nurse that was currently working the contract and allowed her to hand-pick her partner. She had a great working relationship with a case manager at a hospital. And because they worked so well together, she was able to bring her on as her new partner. So my point to that story is you never know where opportunities are going to come from. I hope this episode gave you some ideas on how to be entrepreneurial no matter where you work. If you'd like to learn more about case management or utilization management, I would invite you to go to our website, casemanagementinstitute.com, where you can find our courses and resources on both subjects. We'll have a link in the show notes. If you found this episode helpful, I really hope you'll leave a 5-star rating and review. And if you have any questions or topics that you would like us to cover in another episode, please send us an email to hello@thestayathomenurse.com. If you have a friend or colleague that would benefit from listening to this episode, please share it with them. And that's a wrap. I look forward to getting into your earbuds again next week.